Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from our IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Matrix Lab, the video number 91. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have started the topic of understanding and troubleshooting volume shadow copy service, which is a very important service that is related to backup. It's a type of backup that is much faster and helps you to take backup without disrupting the application operation or the users accessing the files. Okay, if you have backup of files, it's a very important service. It's integrated to most of the application or the backup application providers. Very easy. Sorry, not very easy. It's a known service, and it helps us to maintain backup of applications that, or files that should be accessed 24/7. Okay, so today we will continue discussing this topic by going through the PowerPoint slides for Mr. Lo van der Poel. I am taking his video as a reference for my discussion of the topic. Please refer to his video on his channel TechSavvy to see more details or to see his magnificent explanation. So today we will continue talking about the components of the volume shadow copy service. We all know that the volume shadow copy has three components: the VSS requester, which is the application. Basically, it can be Veeam, it can be NetApp, it can be any application, backup application. VSS writer, this is the part where in the operating system, okay, it will ensure that you can take the backup, okay, by freezing the operation, okay, on the application that you need to take backup from, or by freezing the access to the files that you need to take backup from. This will be only for 60 seconds, not more than that. Okay, and at the end, the VSS provider, another component that will take the copy, or it will take the backup and put it in a certain storage or certain location. So we have the requester, the application, the VS writer that will freeze the operation, VS provider that will take the backup, okay, and store it, and then after finishing with the backup, the VSS writer will release the freeze on the application or the file, and then you can work normally on your application or your file. This will not be noticed by the users or the users accessing files or users accessing applications. So let's continue and discuss this one by one. VSS requester, these are the software. We can see most of them are Veritas, AWS, Veeam. The one or the most famous backup applications concerning virtual environments are Veeam, one of the pioneers in the field. And then we can see all after Veeam begin working in backup the virtual environments like Veritas and a lot of applications. So these are the requesters, and how we can there is a utility on the Windows Server which is called Disk Shadow. Through it you can see, or you can list all of the components of the VSS service. For example, you need to list the writers. If we need to know the VSS writers on a server, we can do that. We can see, for example, in the upcoming slides, we see that Microsoft has about 34 VSS writers that are responsible for freezing certain operations of certain applications. So if we go further, this is Disk Shadow. Through it, you can list a lot of things. You can list the VSS writers. You can list the VSS providers. You can list or know the location of the shadow copies where they are stored. We will see that in a moment when we discuss this topic with AI tools. We will see that we will use most of these commands later through this utility. If we need to know how much VSS writers we have on operating system, how much VSS providers we have on a system, where are the shadow copies stored, all of this we can do it through the disk shadow. This is the first utility. There is another utility we can use. Disk shadow is only available on Windows Server. There is another utility that is available on both clients and Windows Server, which is called VSS admin utility. We will see that also in a moment. VSS writers, most of the problems comes from the VSS writers component of the VSS shadow copy service. So for example, I have said this before, you have a backup job that runs through Veeam. One day you see an error saying that the backup job was not successful because the VSS writer is not, or it is hanging, it's stopped, it's not working. So to fix the backup issue, we need to make this service, restart this service, or see what is the problem with this service. We will see when we ask the AI tools to provide some scenarios concerning VSS writer problems. We'll see how we can solve this issue, and actually can go to the event viewer, a certain event. Through it you can see the volume shadow copy errors. Okay, this will include VSS writers errors. We'll see how we can solve them, what are the different errors, and each error, what does it mean. It's included in the PDF of Mr. Low van der Poel. I have showed you all guys in the previous video the same, or there is a section for the VSS shadow copy errors. Okay, so we can continue with this other slide. We can see the first component. This is the second component, the VSS requesters. This is basically the backup application. VSS writers, software components that guarantee we have consistent data set to save to disk. This will stop. This is the live volume data. It will close any transaction. So let's read it. VS writer component that guarantee we have consistent data set to save to disk, complete all open transactions, taking care of logs and flushing cache. This to make sure when we freeze the operation on the application that no one is working and no pending transactions are open. 60 seconds maximum allowed to freeze the application. This made the data sets saved to a disk are called shadow copies. It will be saved. This data is called, or this backup is called shadow copies. For example, Microsoft codes the writer in Windows operating system for the registry. So for example, if you need to back up the registry through Veeam, Veeam should go to the VSS writer in Microsoft operating system concerning the registry and ask it to see if there is any action on the registry. You need to freeze it until he takes a backup. Veeam takes a backup and then store it, and then the VSS writer can release or can unfreeze the access to the registry. So this is basically what a writer do. We can see here from this diagram, we have live data volume. We can see that backup job locating data to backup. This is the job maybe on Veeam or something. Data that has not been changed, data that has been changed. So there is the backup. You need to, for example, take a backup of the registry. We have seen in the previous video that it is easy for the backup application to take backup of data that is not currently accessed or that are not currently changed. The challenge is when you take a data that is changed and is currently accessed. This is where the backup or the VS shadow copy service comes to play. So we have two parts. Data that has not changed, data has been changed. Data has not been changed is easily to take it through or to back it up through the backup application. The data that has been changed, you take a snapshot of it through VSS service. Okay, how to do that? We need to talk to the VSS writer to check application consistency. Okay, and then after taking the backup, okay, or taking the snapshot, it advises on changes. If it is already backed up, it need to release or unfreeze the access to the application. Okay, or the registry or whatsoever. Snapshot requirements, create and maintain. Who takes the backup? VSS provider. Okay, so this is basically very simple process. If we go and see something like this, we can see this is the process. We can see this is the requester. Okay, we can see, for example, A, this is the backup server. Then B, get writer information and resolve who is the responsible writer for, or which writer should we talk to. This is B. And then C, we go to the writer that we need, and then after that we prepare for a shadow copy. Okay, then so I think here also all of these are done through the volume shadow copy. So again, we have the backup server A. It will talk to the backup agent or VS requester. It will go and get the writer we need to talk to freeze the operation to which application. This will be done through the volume shadow copy service. It will query the volume shadow copy service for the responsible VSS writer we need to talk to. So after that, you will go to the specific VSS writer through the volume shadow copy service. And then after that, we will go and prepare for a shadow copy D. Then we will create a shadow copy. Okay, file share shadow copy. I think this is on a file server. Okay, and then after finishing, return shadow copy to the requester. So I think preparing for shadow copy here means it is freezing the operation on the file or accessing to the file, because this is a file share shadow copy. This is I think he is talking about file shadow copy writer. Okay, so he's talking about accessing or backing up shared folders on a file server. So this is the VSS writer for the file for file server. Okay, then this is basically the process. Okay, and we can see, for example, this is E1, so you can do that through uh, through uh, through the writer of the Windows or the file server writer on the Windows operating system, or there is, I think, file server VSS agent, request shadow copy, volume shadow copy, create shadow copy providers, Contoso data volume. This is E, read from shadow copy. Anyway, it seems to be a little bit complicated, but actually it's very, very simple. We see the components, we see how it is done. First of all, what was not talked before or was not included in the diagram, that the volume shadow copy is the coordinator between all of the components of the VSS shadow copy. Okay, process. For example, we have the requester, we have the writer, we have the provider. All of these talk to each other or communicate with each other using the volume shadow copy service. So this is very, very simple, and it's a very, very normal process. If we go and see how much or what are the built-in writers in the Windows operating system, on the Windows server you have 34 built-in writers. For example, you can see that one most important one is NTDS VSS writer. If you need to take a copy of the Active Directory database, you need to talk to the VSS writer, NTDS VSS writer, especially if you are taking a snapshot of the Active Directory database. Mostly Active Directory database is always accessed through the day, so you cannot take a backup of it directly. You need to take a snapshot through the VSS shadow copy service, and this is done by talking to the NTDS VSS writer. Okay, we can see a lot of things here, how we can list these services or writers. So through the writers we can know what can we take backup from using the VSS shadow copy, because without having the VSS writer you cannot take a backup using the VSS service. You need to have VSS writer to take a backup through the VSS service. So how we can list all of the writers on a certain server or certain PC, you can do this simply. Let me get you the commandlet. It's very, very simple. If you go and get it, first we need to have uh, here is the commandlets VSS list writers. This is the commandlet. You can take it like that, copy, and then we will go to I think this is CMD, baby. Let me see. We go to the CMD and right click and run as administrator. Yes, and right click through that. So as we can see here, these are the writers. We have, for example, task scheduler writer. It's from its name you can uh, guess that it is taking backup of the scheduled tasks. We can see here something very very good. We have the status is stable, we have no errors. When you are troubleshooting problems with the writers, you will see last error, there is errors or state not stable or whatsoever. We will discuss this later, but we can see task scheduler writer, VSS metadata store writer, performance counters writer, system writer. If we go further, we can see MS search service writer, ASR writer, shadow copy optimization writer, registry writer, okay, com.regb writer, WMI writer. So we can see there is a couple of writers on my Windows 10. On server or on Windows Server, you have more than that. Okay, so this is how you can list the writers. If you go further and go with the slides, VSS writers, all third-party applications must provide their own VSS writer for backup. So when you install Veeam, it will install Veeam VSS writer on the Windows operating system. So when Veeam wants to take a backup of an application that it currently accessed or it's continuously accessed, it needs to talk to its VSS writer to go and communicate with the application and freeze the access to this application. I think this should be this Veeam or the backup solution companies need to be working in close with Microsoft developers, because they need to create VSS writer that is compatible with Windows operating system and talk to application providers also that you need to take backup from, so their writer is also compatible with their applications. So I think this is a continuous developer loop. You need all developers need to communicate to have a writer that is compatible with the operating system and compatible with the applications. Okay, if an application has no writer, the shadow copy will still occur, and all of the data in whatever form it is in at the time of the copy will be included in the shadow copy. So I think if there is no writer available to with Veeam, for example, it will talk to the writers on Microsoft or the default writers. I don't know which writer exactly, but it will talk to the VSS writer of Microsoft. This data can be inconsistent and incomplete. So this is not guaranteed, okay? Talking to the default writer or the Windows system writer, VSS will guarantee that the data will be crash consistent. Okay, I think crash consistent here if you unplug the power from the server, for example, I think all of the data will be gone. This is what I mean by crash consistent. So anyway, so we all know that every backup application should have its VSS writer. It will be installed to the operating system, and this is how you can troubleshoot problems concerning Veeam backup, for example. If you have a problem with a backup job through the Veeam, you need to go to see the VSS writer of the Veeam backup application. We will see that, don't worry, we will see scenarios concerning how we can solve problems concerning the VSS writers. If you go and continue, we can see here VSS providers. This is the third part. We have three types of providers. System, okay, you should have the provider or who is taking or who is making the VSS shadow copy. This can be Microsoft operating system, it can be a software, it can be a hardware. Okay, 10 seconds maximum to write shadow copy to a disk. So you have only 10 seconds to take a backup and store it on a disk. You have 60 seconds to freeze the operations on the applications, all the file servers. How we can list the providers that we have on an operating system. Also, this can be done using another command. Let me first open my CMD and let me show you all what are these providers. If we right click and run as administrator, if we go and see the other commandlets, we can see list providers. Okay, here we go. This is VSS admin and then copy. And then if we go there and right click and paste, so we have only one, Microsoft Software Shadow Copier Provider. This is the one responsible for taking the VSS Shadow Copy backup. So this is the one responsible. I think this is on my system. For example, if I need to take a backup of my registry, registry keys, we need to talk to the VSS registry writer. Then it will go and ask this provider to take the backup of the registry and put it in a certain location. Remember, we can put it in the system information volume folder. Okay, this is we have discussed earlier. So we can see this is for Microsoft. On the server, maybe you have other providers. If we go and see the other slides, we can see that the provider's component that creates and maintains the shadow copies, this can occur in the software or in the hardware. Microsoft provides a software provider for Windows Server Backup. These are the two items. So if you are using Windows Server Backup utility, okay, on your Windows Server, there is a provider for that, okay, that will take the volume shadow copy. These are the two files responsible for taking volume shadow copy using the Windows Server Backup utility. Okay, so this is the two. If we go further and see, this is the process. Again, he is trying to explain the process. The requester, this is the volume shadow copy. It will talk to the writer, and then it will talk to the hardware provider or the software provider. So this is the software provider, and then it will take the backup, okay, or a hardware provider. Okay, first of all, we need to have 15 to 20% of total uh, or free space on the volume, so you can take a volume shadow copy. You need to have at least 15-20% of the total driver capacity. So again, this is the writer. We can, so again, talking to the writer, it will freeze the operation. It will talk to the provider, software provider like this one, or a hardware provider. We will see how we can have a hardware provider. And then after that, I think this is after the provider takes the shadow copy. Now it is correct, or it is final, okay, or it is working. You can go again for the volume shadow copy and then go to the requester again and then 6. Okay, so I think okay, 6 or 7. So I think this is, I don't know why it's a little bit complicated, but anyway, it is describing the same process. You talk to the volume shadow copy, the requester asks the volume shadow copy to locate the certain VSS writer. Then the VSS writer freezes the operation. It will talk to the specific hardware or software provider. It will take the backup, then talk to the writer to release the freeze on the application or file, and then it will give it to the requester back. So these are the process, and you need to have 15 to 20% of total drive capacity to be free. Reserve it for saving the shadow copies. Okay, so if you go to the next slide, HBA RAID controllers can be VSS hardware providers. So if you have a server with RAID controllers, these are considered shadow copy hardware providers. So for example, if you need maybe to take a shadow copy of your data on your hard disks and there is RAID between these hard disks, then the provider would be the RAID hardware controller. Okay, the RAID hardware controller. He is considered to be the hardware provider. RAID controllers can be VSS hardware providers. VSS software provider built in the operating system. We have seen that from a couple of seconds. And here, hardware providers improve speed. So if you have a RAID controller and you need to have backup, I think we all know the process of RAID. You need, for example, if you have RAID 3 or RAID 0 or RAID whatsoever, there is copy of the data between the hard disks. I think this is done using the VSS provider or using the VSS shadow copy. And here, the VSS provider should be the RAID controller. It's a hardware provider, not a software provider. So what is the benefit of using hardware VSS providers on or other than VSS software providers? It is the speed. Okay, so this is a good thing. If we go further and see the other things, for example, we have, this is a kind of storage, pure storage VSS hardware provider for flash arrays. So for example, I think this is for hard disks for a company called Pure Storage. So if you have a Pure Storage, NAS storage, or whatsoever storage, they have their hardware writer, okay, and it is installed in the operating system, okay. So this is a good thing. If you go and continue, Pure Storage VSS extension allows users to take volume snapshot while application continue writing to the flash array. So this is the service we can see here. This is the volume shadow copy hardware. So this is the service uh, other than your Microsoft VSS shadow copy service. I think this is responsible this is the provider, by the way. This is not the writer, okay? Or it is not the service. This is the provider service, okay? Not the VSS shadow copy, okay? This is the VSS hardware provider service, okay? So this is it. If we go further and see, we have writers, we have volume shadow copy, we have requester, we have writers, we have system providers. This is volumes. You have system provider, hardware provider, software provider. System providers, we have seen Microsoft. This is a system provider. Software provider, maybe other providers, okay. Hardware provider like RAID controllers, okay. For example, a hard disk of total capacity 9.9 gigabyte should have a VSS threshold setting of between 15 gigabyte and 20 gigabyte. If you have a volume you need to back it up and it is 100 gigabyte, you should leave 15 or 20 gigabytes for the volume shadow copy backups. So this is the thing. If we continue and see the other slides, we have two tools uh, to see the VSS or to troubleshoot VSS. We have seen one of them, which is disk shadow. I will see that I have already videos to show you that, but it's simple like the VSS admin. You just type the commandlet and then you can choose any one of them. So for example, disk shadow, and then press enter. After that you can tell him list writers, list providers, the same like VSS admin. I will show you all as we have seen this. So you type disk shadow, enter, then you can tell him list providers, list writers, and so and so. And this is on the file server or on the Windows Server operating system. As you can see, are all the command list concerning this tool. VSS admin, a command line tool found on Windows 10 and 11. We have this. Disk shadow is only on the server or Windows operating system or Windows Server operating system. Perform a variety of tasks, disk shadow, including listing of all writers, list providers, list shadow copies, the number of backups done by the VSS service, setting file data and metadata, loading metadata, listing writers, adding volumes, maybe adding volumes to take shadow copy from them, create a shadow copy, and more. Utility which expose VSS functionality through 20 different commandlets. I'll try to ask AI tools to provide us with scenarios that we can, through it, use all of these commandlets. If we go and continue, here is the VSS admin. If we go there and tell him VSS admin, you can see here others are delete shadows, shadow copies, list of providers, list shadows, list storage, okay, list the volumes eligible for shadow copy, the volumes that we take shadow copy from, the storage where we store the copies or the backups, list shadows, listing existing volume shadow copies, writers, resize shadow storage, resize the volume shadow copy storage association. So this is it. If we go further and try to see, here is something called VSS provider can. You can take a backup. There is three kinds of backup: complete copy, split mirror, copy on write, differential copy, most common, redirect on write, differential copy to a different logical drive. So these are the kind of backups. When I try to see in Mr. Lovendelpol uh, documentation how the provider creates a shadow copy, here we can see that we have a complete copy. This method makes a complete copy called a full copy or clone of the original volume at a given point. This is very, very easy. This copy is a read-only. Okay. Copy on write. This method does not copy the original volume. Instead, it makes a differential copy by copying all changes, complete write IO requests, that are made to the volume after a given point of time. So this is only take the changes, which is the most common way, and the VSS shadow copy works in this method. Okay, so the shadow copy can take a complete backup, okay, or a differential backup. Redirect on write. This method does not copy the original volume and does not make any changes to the original volume after a given point of time. Instead, it makes a differential copy by redirecting all changes to a different volume. So I think the difference between these two, the copy is taken upon the same volume. So, or for example, you are taking a shadow copy of volume C. The backup is put on drive C. I think this is different. The other one, it is taking backup and putting it on a different volume. So this is different, and these are differential copy. So this is our differential copy, and it is saved to the same volume as far as I can understand, and this is saved to a different volume. If we go further and try to see the explanation, copy on write. So he is talking about the original volume and shadow copy are mirrored, are are a mirrored volume set. Okay, the volume shadow copy is separated from the original volume. This breaks the mirror connection. If the mirror connection is broken, the original volume and shadow copy volumes are independent. The original volume continues to accept changes, while the shadow copy remains as an exact read-only copy of the original state at the time of the break. So this is, I think, he is having two volumes. Maybe they are mirrored. Okay, one for the copy and one for the original data. And when the copies are done, they break the mirror set or break the connection of the mirror. This is as far as I can comprehend. Then we have copy on write method. In the copy write method, when a change to the original volumes occur, but before the write input output request is completed, each block to be modified is read and then written to the volume shadow copy storage area, also called as diff area. The shadow copy storage area can be on the same volume or on different volume. This preserves a copy of the data block on the original volume before the changes overwrites it. So I think this was the difference between the two. Change before the write IO request is completed. So this is before the changes, okay, is done. Okay, before, if you are changing a file or an application, you are taking the backup before the change. Okay, and then it is written time source. Okay, I think I need to have examples on this one. Rewrite on write method in the redirect where the original receives an IO and apply the value. Instead, it's given to another volume shadow copy storage area. So this is what I'm talking about. If I try to ask, let me see, I will do something here. Here I have done a couple of things. Here I have already go to ChatGPT and already feed him with the PDF, okay, of Mr. Lo van der Poel. I'll ask him to explain, okay, how providers creates shadow copy based on this is the PDF like a junior IT and prepared like this one and give him this one and give him this one. Let's see how he will explain this topic if we go there and do like that. Okay, so he's taking the same explanation and copy and paste. This is not what I'm talking about. So if we go further, let me see here. There is copy on write, and there is another one missing. We have copy complete copy, we have copy on write, and we have another one, okay, which is redirecting redirecting on writes. He didn't provide this. So let me tell him, or let me tell him where is the complete copy redirect on write method. So where is redirect on write method? So here is explaining this one is another approach by its providers to create shadow copy. Instead of modifying the original volume where changes are made, this method redirects all changes to a separate storage or volume. The original data remains untouched. The shadow copy reflects the exact state of the data at the time the snapshot were created. The volume where changes are made. Okay, I think I need to have a real world scenario. Okay, let's see here. Consider a virtualization platform where snapshots of virtual machines are needed for backups or cloning. Use the redirect uh, on method. A VM snapshot is created without impacting its live operations. Changes to the VM disk are written to a separate storage area, ensuring the snapshot remains a clean and consistent state of the VM at the time of creation. This approach minimizes I think I do not understand this. Let's see if we can uh, ask uh, ask Gemini to explain the same topic. I don't see if he will give us the same explanation, or maybe he will give us a better one. If you go there and copy and ask Gemini the same, I have already fed him with the same PDF. Let's see if I can uh, ask him to run. Why it's not running? So why we don't have any run? Okay, I think I have still some time, or so why we don't have run? Just a moment. Copy. Let's make a refresh. So let's put it like this. Right, control press enter, control press enter. And let's go to Claude and see if he can also explain this topic. Let's see if we can get it. Here I didn't feed him with the PDF because the context window is large. Let's see if he can get it straight. So let's see the answer here. If we go and ask it to explain each one of these, complete copy. This method like making a full exact copy of the entire volume at a specific moment. Imagine you have a mirror reflecting the original volume. The provider breaks the mirror connection, and now you have two independent volumes, the original and the exact copy, which becomes the shadow copy. Real world scenario. This is less common for regular backups because it's a resource intensive. but it could be used for creating a full bootable copy of a system disk for testing or disaster recovery. Okay. Pitfalls. Resource intensive, requires as much disk space as the original volume. Time consuming. Creating a full copy takes time. Usually this is done by hardware provided by SAN. Okay, copy. Right. This is the most common method, especially for the built-in Windows software provider. Instead of copying everything, it only copies the data blocks that are changed. Okay, that's it. After the snapshot is initialized. Before any changes are made, the original data block is copied to the shadow copy before any change is made to the data, like the word scenario we have discussed in the previous video. Okay, it is copied to the shadow copy storage area. It's called diff area. Then the original data block on the live volume will be updated. Okay, real world scenario. Imagine you are backing up a file server when the shadow copy is created and a user modifies the document. The original blocks of that document are copied to the off difference area before the changes are ready to the live volume. That's correct. This is the word example that we have discussed earlier in the previous video. The shadow copy then uses these original blocks to reconstruct the point in time view of the file. These original blocks to reconstruct the point in time view of the file. Yes, that's correct. Pitfalls. If the difference area is too small or fills up, the shadow copy can fail. You need to have the shadow copy storage from 15 to 20% of the volume drive space. Impact. A lot of writer activity during the shadow copy existence can lead to performance overhead, as each changed block needs to be copied to the diff area. Processor, or if you have a lot of processes on the server, this will impact the shadow copy process. Fragmentation. Over time, the shadow copy can become fragmented, affecting performance. Maybe you need to defrag the volume that contains the shadow copy. Only protects data on the volume at the time of the snapshot. Any changes made after the snapshot will be lost if you revert to the snapshot. That's correct, because you take copy of the data before the change. If you have many changes, this method will become expensive. So how it works? The other one, the redirect on write. How it works? This method is similar to copy on write, but instead of copying the original data before modification, it redirects all new writes to a different location, the diff area. The original data is never touched. Let's see here what he mean by that. But instead of copying the original data before modification, this is done, it redirects all the new writes to a different, the changes are redirected to the diff area, not the original data before modification. So I think here, if we go, he copies the original data, okay, before the change, but here he is copying the changes only, not the original data, to diff area. The original data is never touched. This method is often used by hardware providers like SAN because it can be more efficient than copy on write in certain situations. For example, if you have a storage array that supports redirect on write, the VSS provider can instruct the array to handle the redirection, freeing up source resources on the server. So I think this is maybe the most convenient. Complexity can be more complex to manage than copy on write. Read performance. Many reads can cause performance to slow down. Vendor specific, often tied to specific storage hardware. So we can see here that he's giving us another scenario. Let's see, you have a database server using the built-in VSS provider, which uses copy on write for database. Your backup software initialize the backup. If the VSS writer tells the SQL Server writer to prepare for a snapshot, the SQL writer ensures all transactions are complete and that is consistent. The VSS service tells the Windows VSS provider to create a shadow copy. The VSS provider starts tracking the changes to the volume. When a change is about to be made to a data block, the provider first copy the original block to the diff area. The backup software reads from the data from the shadow copy, which includes a combination of the original volume data and the changed block stores in diff area. So again, changes made to the first copies the original block to the diff area. So after that, okay, after the changes made. So I think we can see here, this is the changes, but again, I think I have to see something here. Let me see this one. Because we have a certain diagram, if we go further again to our diagram, very, very important one. I remember that we have a diagram like this one, for example, Mr. Low van der Poel, concerning here. So here, VS copy on write of changes from the working file. So these are unchanged files. They are backed up. Okay. These two blocks, we have changes on them. Okay. There is changes to be done on them. So we will copy them before the change. Okay. So we will copy on write of changes from working files, of changes or the original data. Okay, this is what we mean here. Is copying the changes or copying the original data, okay, of changes from working files. So here is saying he's copying the changes, okay, but here in the PDF he's saying that he's copying is about to be made to a block. The provider first copies the original block to the diff area. The hacker reads from the shadow copy, which includes a combination of the original volume data and the changed blocks stored in diff area. So I think here he will maybe compare between the changed data and the unchanged data maybe, and uh, make it in a simple way. Let's also consider or reading again the copy on write. He is saying that uh, when a change to the original volume occurs, but before the I/O is completed, each block to be modified is read and then be written to the volume shadow copy storage. Okay, when a change to the original volume occurs, okay, but before the write I/O request is completed, okay, each block to be modified is read and then written to the volume shadow copy. So is basically the changes are written or taken by the volume shadow copy. Again, changes when a change to the original volume occurs, but not before the I/O request completed. Each block to be modified is read and then written the volume shadow copy area. The area can be on the same volume. This preserves a copy of data on the original before the changes overwrites it. So this is, let's wait for a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here I think I was mistaken. The shadow copy takes backup of the data that will be changed. Okay, it will not take the changes itself. So we can see here, for example, the original data. On this example, we have data 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 3. It is changed to 3 dash. Okay, first of all, shadow copy doesn't work, or it will not work during no changes on the data. Now we have changed 3 to 3 dash. Here the shadow copy will take 3. It will not take 3 dash. This is not yet written to the hard disk. It will be prepared to be written to the hard disk. I think it's in the memory phase. So here this is, he will take backup of 3. Okay, after the data is changed and saved and written to the hard disk, now we have a copy of 3. If you will restore this later, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 3 dash. So this is a copy of 3 before changing to 3 dash. If we read the description, it's a quick method for creating shadow copy because it copies only the data that is changed, not the data is changed that will be changed. Okay, because he doesn't take 3 dash. Okay, the copy blocks in the diff area, okay, the storage or the storage or shadow copy storage can be combined with the changed data of the original volume to restore the volume to its state before any of the changes were made. Okay, take here this one. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't take the change. It takes the 3 or takes the block before the change. Okay, so this is why I was mistaken here in the slide. So what we mean by that, we mean that here we are taking the data before the change. Okay, it is combined with the unchanged data and the data that will be changed. Okay, and combine them in one set. Okay, so this is the thing I was mistaken from the beginning. I thought it was taking the changes. If you go to the example, I think he was taking a backup of 3 dash, not the 3. So this is, as for the copy on write method, this change is saved to the same volume. So for example, if this data on the C partition, the 3 will be saved, or will be the change will be stored on the same partition. This is for copy on write method. If we go and continue, let's see here the example. So here, let's see here. Here is this the original data. Redirect on write method 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Data changed in cache. 3 to 3 dash. Shadow copy created differences 3. So what will happen here? So here the changes are, say, actually here redirect on write method. Here he is taking the changes and saves them. So here data is changed in cache from 3 to 3 dash. I think here is talking about the memory maybe. So he's taking the changes. If you return back the data, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So which is very, very strange. So now he means that this is not saved to the hard disk. So he's taking the changes from the memory, maybe, and the change was not made. So here he will return the change. Let's see here what is the description. If we see 1 second here, like the copy on write method, the redirect on write method is a quick method for creating a shadow copy because it copies only the changes to the data. The copy blocks in the diff area can be combined with the unshaded data on the original volume to create a complete up-to-date backup. So here is taking the changes, okay, and I think here the changes were not made, maybe, okay. So this is strange. So maybe I think here in this one he's changed 3 to 3 dash, but he didn't save the document. I think this is something like auto save maybe. For example, if you were changing a document, I think this scenario is very, very similar to what we'll talk about in a second. For example, if you are working on an Excel sheet and then you are changing data, you didn't make save. So you make a change, but you didn't make save to the change. And the Excel crashes, okay? The Excel crashes. When you open the Excel again, you will see something called recovered sheet. The recovered sheet will give you the latest change. It will give you the change that you have made, even though it was not saved to the hard disk. Something like that. I think this is what he's talking about, because this seems to be different. He's talking about an original volume, complete up-to-date copy of the data. If there are many read IO requests, the redirect or write method can be more expensive. So I think here, I don't know how this method is done, but I think this depends on the memory. So I think he's taking the changes from the memory, maybe. So this is and it's actually the change is saved to another volume, so it's not saved to the volume that you are taking the data from, or the backup you are taking, the backup of the volume you are currently backing up. For example, if you are, this is on the C partition and you have changed the part of it, this will be saved to the D partition. Okay, so this is different. Anyway, this seems to be, for me, it seems to be more efficient maybe, but this is two different methods. So you have the VSS shadow copy can take an original copy of the data. He can take a copy of the data before the changes and copy of the data after the change. So you have three things I think he can do. Let's see Claude, when I asked him to explain the same topic. I think here he will not get it because he doesn't know the three things: initialize, okay, SQL, creating the backup. Okay, he doesn't recognize it because I didn't feed him with the documentation. So this is not an answer. If we go and let me go to ChatGPT. If you go to ChatGPT and see the answer, now let's see if he can get it right. So here I think he got, and instead of modifying the original changes are redirected to a separate volume. This is not correct. Copy on write, this is not correct. Okay, it's not redirected to a separate volume. Okay, this is written instead preserves. Okay, this is not correct. Copy on write, this is not the correct answer. Opposite, it is the redirect on write. This is the thing that you are talking about. So okay, I think now we have a complete vision about what is the what we are talking about. If you go to the writers again, I think we have seen this crash content. I think we have discussed this. The other providers, we go to this one. Okay, we have the providers, and then we have discussed this one, and then this one, and we have the writers. If we go there, and we have this one, VLC, and we have all of these. So we have stopped at this one, and we have I've discussed each one of these. If we go further, this is the split mirror. He's saying that net backup server Veritas, this is the server, and we have two clients. Okay, this is the primary data, hard disk on the primary one, and this will take a complete backup to a mirror disk. Okay, and then detail for policy attribute. I think after that he will break the mirror, take this copy and put it on storage media. Okay, I think this is the concept. So you have two clients. Okay, and this is with, I think, with the same disk space or identical hard disks, because this will be mirror. So he's taking a copy of this primary disk data and put it on the mirror disk, and then after that he will break, I think, the mirror link and then copy the mirror disk to a storage. So this is how the split mirror method. Okay, Samba on Linux is capable of providing shadow copy service on LMV backed storage or within an underlying ZFS or BTRFS. So I think shadow copy service can also works on Linux, not only Windows. So troubleshooting VSS, I think this is an important thing. If we go there here, first of all, facts to remember about VSS: maximum volume size is 64 gigabytes. So VSS maximum volume size is 64 terabyte. Okay, you cannot have a volume more than that. Oldest shadow copy is overwritten when shadow copy storage reaches its limit. Okay, you can exclude files from VSS, see documentation. Where on the disk is shadow copy storage? We can list that VSS decides based on free space. So I think from our previous discussion, it can put it on the same volume or another volume, maybe, or whatsoever, but this is decided by the VSS. Maximum number of shadow copies per volume is 512. VS Diag View and VSS Agent are tools that you can use to troubleshoot VSS applications. They are found as SDK kits for Windows. So I think this is already very crystal clear. We can use it very simply. If we go and continue with the slides, there is something called Acronis Doctor. This you can download, and it diagnoses or tool for diagnosing and repairing volume shadow copy issues. You can download it for free and use it. It will create a report, I think, and you can solve issues using this utility. I'll try to see if in the previous or the upcoming videos we try to use these utilities. I think I have already installed one of them. Let me see if I can open it. If we open like this one, I think I have it already. Here you go. I think I have it in the matrix final. I have the Acronis Doctor. I think, let me see. I have Acronis. Let's see, Acronis. Okay, I didn't download it. Actually, here is the Acronis Doctor, but we need to install it. And this is on the server because it's working with .NET Frame 4.5. Anyway, so you can use it for troubleshooting. And here where the notes come in handy. You will see a list of VSS error codes. If we go there and see the PDF, okay, if we go there and try to see the section for the errors, okay, we can see here a lot of error codes. We can see here is the error and the description. We can also use these and feed AI tools with it and try to create scenarios based on these errors. And you can see each one of these and the solution. So very, very good actually. We can create scenarios based on this, or you can refer to it when there is a problem to solve it directly without any issues. So this is good. 200 page on Notes VSS, notes on troubleshooting. We have seen this, how to use PowerShell to troubleshoot VSS. If we go and see also the PDF, I think there is a section for this for PowerShell. If we go and try to see troubleshooting, here is resizing, troubleshooting errors, basic troubleshooting guide. I think this is maybe the thing here. Here is talking about you need to see in the application VSS, you need to see in the event viewer in the application section the thing related to VSS. Okay, so if you go to the slides, it is already there. So you have a lot of things. You have CLI tools. If you go also to the PDF, we will see that there is a complete section for troubleshooting using VSS guide, VSS diag, Norton Doctor, a lot of things we can use to troubleshoot problems concerning the VSS. Okay, you can use all of these. There is the errors, there is the basic troubleshooting guide, there is VSS diag and other tools you can use. We have already seen in the slides. If we go again, mostly this is solved by restarting the server or restarting the VSS writer. So most of the problems are with the VSS writer. Simply, you can restart the VSS writer through command prompt or just restart the server. A simple reboot can solve the issue. And actually here is you can see the events from the application. We can see here, this is the slides. Hyper-V VMSS. If you have a virtual machine, you need to see the section of Hyper-V VMMS. Okay, this is how you can see it. If this is a virtual, if it's a physical machine, you need to take application VS. If it is a virtual machine, you need Hyper-V VMSS. So if you go further and see the other things, contact support to verify problem. If you have a backup application vendor, if the writer is related to the vendor, maybe for Veeam, you need to contact Veeam support to solve their VSS writer problem. If we continue, visit Microsoft support, verify if a hotfix for your issue is already available. Maybe there is a problem with the writer and Microsoft has already issued a fix for it. If we continue to the other slides, VSS admin list writers, we have already this one, and I've showed you all if there is any problems, it will be listed. If you go there and write like this one, we have list writers, okay, writers, and press enter. Now we can see here is no error. You need to make sure this is complete. There is something called waiting for completion. Okay, it's stable, waiting for. I think this is working. So This is no problem. You need to see stable and no error. So this is how you can, if there is a problem, you can restart the writer, and I will show you all how we can do this in some scenarios created by the AI tools. But this is basically how you can check the writer status, and mostly all of your problems concerning the VSS shadow copy will be from the writers, 90%, as Mr. Low van der Poel have said. So we can see check all writers to see if errors are present, restart any service related to those writers. So maybe these writers have services in the Windows services, they need to be restarted, or I think you can restart the writer itself from the command prompt. I think there is a command for doing that. Okay, so here is a couple of things concerning the services to the writers. Restart COM system application service, restart distributed transaction coordinator service, restart volume shadow copy service itself, restart the corresponding VSS writer service. This is the one thing, or this is what I was talking about. So you can restart the volume shadow copy service or the writer service or distributed transaction coordinator service. I don't know how this is related to the writer. Restart COM services. Let's see later if we can have a scenario to explain all of these. At the end, we have if application writers have errors, try reaching out the application support writer for Veeam, for example. You need to check them and see. Check the system service account of the responding writer. Ensure it is a system account. So sometimes maybe the writer service or the writer itself is not run by a system account. So all of these are troubleshooting tips, and I think we can try to invest in these things and ask AI tools to provide us with scenarios related to these things. We will see. I'll try to ask AI tools to provide some scenarios concerning these issues. If we go and continue, if any writer has errors, VSS will not complete successfully. And one thing here, do not register associated DLL. Sometimes the writers I think, initialized by DLLs. He's saying do not register associated DLLs. Microsoft Word, the most important point to remember when troubleshooting VSS issues in Windows Server 2008 and later versions is that registering the associated DLL is not recommended. Okay? Microsoft advise against registration. So this is one important note to take into consideration. And we need to refer to the PDF again. And this is the info. I think I need to have in the upcoming video some scenarios concerning or create scenarios concerning these problems and concerning the errors also listed in the PDF. So I try to create some scenarios by the AI tools to give us something related to VSS shadow copy errors. So I think this is we have two videos now discussing the VSS shadow copy as a service. We need in the upcoming videos to troubleshoot problems concerning the VSS shadow copy. I will try to use AI tools with Godwell to create some scenarios. Hope this video informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.